Hello, BookTube. It's time for your Monday MegaStuff video, a video in which I lump together all the little bits and pieces that can't really make a video on their own. And of course, we'll start with babies, because I put out a call for pictures of your Shakespeare in honor of September, which is the month of ShakeTube. A wonderful BookTube event in which me and a handful of other BookTubers talk about Shakespeare all month long. You, by now, I hope, have seen all of the inaugural ShakeTube videos that came out yesterday. And I have a bunch of other stuff planned. For instance, I mentioned a Shakespeare starter kit, and that went over well. Quite a few people have emailed me and said, yes, please do that. And there are a bunch of other things I want to do, including one tomorrow. But I put out a call for you to send me pictures of what Shakespeare you may be reading in the month of September, and I said, feel free to include pictures of your dogs as well. And quite a few people did, and I also got pictures of rats. But there were a large number of cat pictures as well. A distressingly large number of cat pictures. And I only have one baby picture for you today, and it is, in fact, a cat. And it's not just any cat. This is a cat who has glared at me, and more specifically, at Frida, from across a room. This is one of the cats that used to live up in the old farmhouse in Vermont. Mark Richardson, the host of Richardson Reads, has two cats. One is much bigger than the other. Both did not take kindly to a fuzzy little intruder in their domain. And this is a new domain. There you have the great second edition of the Riverside Shakespeare, that big, fat, brown volume. You cannot do better than that. You cannot do better than that as a volume of Shakespeare to have. And it's pretty durable. It will last you. The pages are onion skin thin, but the book is pretty durable. I have battered mine all to heck and gone. And there is one of the cats on that nice wingback chair, but this is not the same domain. This cat may have glared at Frida across a living room, but not in this house. This is a new house. The old farmhouse is gone. It will be somebody else's winter headache instead of Mark's. And the sad truth, which we will work to correct, is that neither Frida nor I have been in this new house. These cats have not glared at us in their new home. So that's your baby for today. Good Lord. But boy, oh boy, it's been, those of you who don't follow Mark on Instagram, it's been very tantalizing to watch the slow progress being made in making this place, this new house, his own. Because, of course, that's a process that we've all been through, right? You move into a new place, and yes, there are lots of other people to concern yourself with. There are lots of practicalities to concern yourself with. But every reader is also in the back of their mind thinking, well, all right, but which corners are going to be mine? Where am I going to do my reading? It's great to see that take shape, and to know that, you know, it finesses itself over time. That's been true even in this little book room. I always do that. When I go to a new place, I always stake out for myself a tiny nook, a cranny, that will be my book room. It's usually the smallest space anywhere in any given house or apartment that has a window, because I don't need a lot of space. I actually prefer it if I don't. And then I fill it with the books that are keepers, the books that I love more than the rest of the books in my collection. But even so, there has been change in this room over the time. You can see it on my BookTube videos. And the change happened long before then as well. Two main changes. One has been very slow, which is, even though these books are keepers, these are the ones I like more than the others that are here at Hyde Cottage. There is still a bit of triage and shifting around of the books in this room. Just a bit. It does continue to happen. And number two, the placement of my battered old World War I bed. I have a metal box spring with a battered mattress on top of it. I keep thinking that I should just get rid of it and get just one of those unfolding section foam beds. That I should just get one of those instead of having this thing and lugging it all over the place, because I don't sleep on it much, and the foam doesn't have bugs. It doesn't attract insects of any kind. But over the course of the time that I've been in this room, the bed has moved positions quite a few times. It started out life against that wall, the back wall, and it has moved everywhere since then. It's only been relatively recently that a lot of that has turned static. There's very little upturn in the books in this room, and the bed hasn't moved in a long time. Although even then, there's still upheaval in this little book section because of the you all remember the saga of the closet. I had a long walk-in closet that I have walled off, and still have not filled the shelves. I put a bookshelf in there and in the way of it, in front of it, and I haven't filled those shelves. I'm just paralyzed with choices. But anyway, that's your baby interlude for today. And then I also had a tech update. The least technologically competent channel in all of YouTube has regular tech updates. I have mentioned that thanks to the change in the publishing industry, most of my reading has been done on ebooks in 2020. Most publishing houses are being a lot less profligate in sending out printed review copies, although we have a couple today. And as a result, in 2020, I have been paying more attention to ebooks and ebook reading than ever in the past. Before, it was always, 2%, 6%, something like that of the reading that I did. In 2020, it's suddenly become 92 or 96% of what I read. And that has made me pay extra attention to how I do my e-reading. I put out a call, for instance, for ebooks from all of you, and half a dozen of you have been incredibly generous sending me ebooks. That has been just fantastic. So I've built up a library of ebooks. But that has raised another question, which is, where do you build up that library? And it turns out that this revealed to me a fact that I had hardly guessed before. I'd hardly paid any attention to it, which is the storage capacity of my various reading devices, most of which are iPads. And as you know, iPads have no external storage. You can't put a disk in and increase the storage. And that brought me up against a ceiling. Quite a few of my iPads have a measly amount of storage. One has 32. I think one has 16 gigs of storage. Utterly ridiculous. I have much more than that on my phone, but I like reading on an iPad. I've experimented on lots of things. I have a Barnes & Noble Color Nook. I have an Amazon Nook in 2 different sizes. I have an Amazon Paperwhite that is just the black and white e-ink. And I also have an iPad mini. But I prefer, for long-term reading, just where I'm going to lose myself for a whole morning, I prefer a full-sized iPad. And that means that storage is an issue. And recently, when I've been bellyaching about that on these MegaStuff videos, 2 possibilities have come up. One was suggested to me by a good dozen people. There is a thing, a device, a tiny little thing that actually has a lightning port for an iPad, but it is attached to a thumb drive that you can get in 500 gigs of storage if you want. Where you can plug that in to your iPad and shift over as much as you want onto that thumb drive, clearing out space on the iPad in the process. That is fantastic. I had no idea that such a thing existed, so I ordered one, of course. I will get it in the mail, and I will experiment with it, see what it can do. I don't think it will be much use with the iPad, for instance, that has 16 gigs of storage. I don't think there's much that can be done there. But it could be a lot of use with an iPad that has a little more storage, most of which is being taken up with ebooks. They could just go on that thing. That would be fantastic. And that was one possibility that came up. The other possibility I raised myself, because I've often mentioned, and I mentioned it also on my podcast. I do a podcast for the internet radio station of the Cedarburg Public Library in Wisconsin. I leave a link to it on every video. Feel free to go and listen. Not only because I would hope that you would enjoy it, and it's often different kind of content that you would get on this channel. It's still book related, but a different kind of book related content than you would get here. But also because, and I admit it, I want overwhelming numbers. So I want the folks at the Cedarburg Public Library to know that they have bet on a good horse. But I mentioned on that podcast, and I've mentioned on this channel a number of times, that in addition to all of these various reading devices, these different sized iPads or Kindles or whatnot, I have also had a long-standing quest for one machine to rule them all. One machine that could do everything, where I'm not bouncing between machines at all. Where it can do everything that I want it to do. Now, the fact that there exists this iPad thumb drive for storage is a game changer, and that removes a huge obstacle to any one of my devices becoming that one device. But I've thought more and more lately, because it's been a while. It's been over a week since I got a barrage of gifts from you people on this channel. It's been over a week where we've had a steady daily accrement of mail, of book mail. That's fantastic. And it's also been quite a while, at least in my time frame, since I bought a piece of technology. I kind of like doing that. And I have been thinking about the mother of all pieces of technology. I've been thinking of, instead of doing what a lot of you have made fun of me for and going on to various places like Amazon Marketplace or eBay and finding some cheap 10-year-old tablet or laptop and seeing what I could make out of it for $80 or $50 or whatever, that maybe instead I should go the other route. Maybe I should lay out a chunk of money on an iPad Pro with a smart keyboard. Is it possible? An iPad Pro that I could get, I've looked at them. I've been starting a huge amount of research. I'm not 100% sure that I would need the 2020 model, especially since all the tech channels say that there are minimal changes between the 2020 model and the 2018 model. I'm pretty sure that I could make do with the 2018 model, especially since it supports a smart keyboard and a magnetic stylus for artwork and note-taking and whatnot. I'm pretty sure that if I got one, I would go with the 2018 volume. It's still going to be supported by Apple for a long time. And I know from my previous iPads, I mean, do I have it here? Yes. This thing is 10 years old. And it is still, Apple still supports it to the absolute maximum of what they can do. Look at this. This is the home screen. You can tell that it's 10 years old because that is the gigantic elephantine paw of my old Basset Hound. This has been the background of this machine forever. It's just been Lucy's enormous paw on that book. But this thing is not cut into the wilderness at all. My first generation iPad is. There's virtually nothing that it can do. It can read books, but it can do virtually nothing else. But even that iPad 2, the second generation, is still supported by iPad to a great degree. So a 2018 iPad Pro is probably reasonably future-proofed. It will probably be, at least a good 5 years that I get out of it before crucial things start to stop being possible. So I don't know. That's what I'm thinking about now, is a 2018 iPad Pro with a gigantic amount of internal storage. 500 gigs of storage or more. An enormous amount of onboard storage. Plus I have that new device that should be coming any day now. We'll see how well that works. It looks like it works like a charm. And maybe the iPad Pro would have a good enough camera to take videos, and maybe that would all work seamlessly on an iPad, especially if I had a stand for it, or the Magic Keyboard for the 2020 iPad Pro. There's a version of that, I think, that will work on the 2018 iPad Pro, and it allows the iPad to be put in any kind of position. What I'm trying to say is I am now close enough to start dreaming that maybe there's a machine out there that is my one machine to rule them all. I need something that will take YouTube videos. I use my phone for that now. I do not use any of these other devices for that. I use my phone for that. I need something that I can read on. Well, that's an iPad right there. It's not my phone. So there's a split of functionality right there. I need something that I can type on. Something that I can type documents on. Long documents I write all day long. That I am very comfortable actually using the keyboard that pops up on the real estate of an iPad. Let me give you a visual example as long as I've trapped you here. This is my iPad mini. It has a far more current opening screen. And if what do we got here? Let's see if we can find, do I have a Google Docs on here? I bet I do. I do. If I go to Google Docs on this little iPad mini, and it's true with any, it doesn't have to be this one. Well, you all already know what I'm talking about. A virtual keyboard will pop up that takes up half the space of the screen. And I am actually very comfortable typing on that keyboard, but not for prolonged lengths of time. I can do 1,000 words there. I can do a short review, but not all day on that at all. And also, there's a little bit more of a file supporting ecosystem on my MacBook than on any of my tablet devices. But what if that weren't true? What if the newer iterations of the iPad Pro especially are specifically being designed by Apple to be laptop replacements? What if the 2018 volume, or if I get profligate, maybe the 2020 version, is? What if I attach a smart keyboard to one of them? Do I ever need to go back to a MacBook? And if I don't, Well, then I'm doing filming, uploading, Voxering, reviewing, content consumption. I'm doing all of that on one device. That would be great. That would be just what I want. So we will see. We will see. I have yet to decide what I will do. I confess some of the little things about it are giving me pause. Like, for instance, the iPad Pro seems in large part to be geared towards art production, writing, painting, that sort of thing. And although I sketch every day, I don't have any talent. And I remember a strong admonition made by a tech head friend of mine more than 10 years ago. He told me, don't ever buy a device because of what you want to do on it. Don't ever do that. Buy a device because of what you already do. Buy a device because it will do better what you already do. Don't ever buy a device because you're thinking that the something that it does that you don't do might be fun to try, because you won't do it. It'll be wasted money. I don't know if that's completely true, but that worry is in my mind, definitely. And another little worry that's in my mind is that I know this is going to sound Luddite to a lot of you very young people, but I don't want a device that is locking or unlocking because it's scanning my face. I don't want face recognition software or fingerprint recognition software on my device at all. Not at all. I don't want to be scanning my fingerprint or my face several times a day for a company that has proven over and over again that it will lay over flat if the United States government, and by extension the Russian government, wants any of its personal information, any of my personal information. It will roll over flat. It certainly won't go to court. So I don't want that to be true. And I have yet to figure out, I've watched a lot of videos on the iPad Pro, I've yet to figure out if you can get around that. Is that necessary to do? Do you have to have face identification? If any of you have an iPad Pro, feel free to email me, because I'd love to talk about the details of it. But that, on the tech front, that is currently what I'm thinking. I am toying with the idea of going whole hog on an iPad Pro with a stylus and with a keyboard case, to see if maybe that won't be my one device to rule them all. That would be awesome. If it were, that would be awesome. But I'm still in the research stage, so I will keep you updated. And then we have mail. Despite the fact that this is a federal holiday in the United States, I still got mail. I have no mail boy update, but I suspect it's his handiwork. He seems to never stop delivering mail. He seems to really enjoy going above and beyond. I'm not sure if he's reporting all of that to his union. I'm pretty sure that he'd get in trouble with his union if he worked on a holiday. But nevertheless, I got 2 packages today. They're both from publishers. So let's just see what they are. Not a huge mail haul by the standards of what used to be true on this channel, but better than I would ordinarily expect it on a federal holiday. So let's see. Let's see what the first one is. Okay, the first one is from St. Martin's Press. I bet this is real soon. September 15th. This comes out next week. This is A Palm Beach Scandal by Susanna Marin, the author of A Palm Beach Wife. A Palm Beach Scandal. I don't think I read A Palm Beach Wife. The next book set in the exclusive, glamorous world of Palm Beach. The author follows 2 sisters as one offers the ultimate selfless act to the other, proving the very meaning of family in this novel of artifice and intrigue. Veronica and Simon Cutler and their dazzling adult daughters, Elodie and Aubrey, yes indeed, 21st century, strike an enviable pose, the ultimate Palm Beach family. In a town where social aspirations, wealth, and charm prevail, they are transcendent. While the sisters are polar opposites, they are fiercely loyal to one another. When Elodie receives the shocking news that she is no longer able to conceive a baby, she turns to Aubrey. Aubrey, a free spirit, isn't interested in marriage or children, yet when her sister asks her to carry her child, she can't say no, despite her mother's warnings. And then one stupefying secret, meant to be buried forever, is unearthed, and no one in the Cutler clan is able to turn back. As the family is shaken to their core, Aubrey and Elodie must realize their places in the world and their lives they want to lead. In the midst of the unforgiving opulence of Palm Beach, this story is a story for our times. It doesn't sound like it. It sounds good, but it doesn't sound like a story for our times. A captivating tale of discovery, sisterhood, and love of others where you least expect it. And the author is, Susanna Marin is the author of Between the Tides and A Palm Beach Wife. And the pseudonym for Susan Shapiro Barash, who has written over a dozen nonfiction books, including Tripping the Prom Queen, Toxic Friends, and You're Grounded Forever, but First Let's Go Shopping. For over 20 years, she has taught gender studies at Marymount Manhattan College and has guest taught creative nonfiction at the Writing Institute at Sarah Lawrence College, and she lives in New York City. Okay, so she's written, it looks like 3 books under the name Susanna Marin, but a bunch of other books, nonfiction, under her own name. And this plot description is just making me wonder what the stupefying secret is. We have one sister who can't conceive, the other who's going to, who agrees to carry the baby for her. What could the stupefying secret be? Are the sisters not related by blood? Will that turn out to be the reason why one sister can't conceive and the other can? Or will it have to do with the donor? I gotta confess, I'm curious, and I'm in the mood for a little sudsy romance. And this is only a week away, so it's entirely possible I could put it on my TBR for tonight. And then we'll do this next one. Wow, so a Palm Beach scandal. I wonder what the scandal is. Not being able to conceive is not a scandal, I don't think. Maybe it is in the cutthroat world of Palm Beach. So what have we got here? I don't seem to have any paperwork on this one. No, I don't. Okay, I think we saw this already. An advanced copy, maybe? One way or another, we'll look at it together. This is The Sword and the Spear. Book 1 in the Sands of the Emperor trilogy by Couto. C-O-U-T-O. Kind of an arresting cover design. It's certainly unusual. Couto was born in Mozambique in 1955 and is one of the most prominent writers in Portuguese-speaking Africa. After studying medicine and biology, he worked as a journalist and headed several Mozambican national newspapers and magazines. He's been awarded Camões Prize for Literature and the prestigious Neustadt International Prize for Literature, among other awards. And he lives in Maputo, where he works as a biologist. Okay, but David Brookshaw is also mentioned. So is this translated? Is this a translation? Yes, it is. It's translated from the Portuguese by David Brookshaw. Okay, so this is The Sword and the Spear, Sands of the Emperor, a Mozambican trilogy. And this is... Oh, okay, this is book 2. The Sword and the Spear is book 2. Woman of the Ashes was book 1. Oh, that could be trouble. That could be trouble. Do I need to know? Let's find out. Mozambique, 1895. After an attack on his quarters, the defeated Portuguese sergeant Hermano de Melo needs to be taken to the hospital. The only one within reach is along the Inharime River, so his lover, Imani, undertakes an arduous rescue mission, accompanied by her father and brother. Meanwhile, war rages between the Portuguese occupiers and the Emperor... Goodness gracious. The Emperor's warriors. There's a name here. Ningungunyane? Ningungunyane? The Emperor's warriors. Battles waged with sword and spear until the arrival of a devastating new weapon destined to secure European domination. Germano wants to start a new life with Imani, but the Portuguese military has other plans for the injured soldier. And Imani's father has his own plans for his daughter's future, as one of Ningungunyane's wives. Should be close enough to the tyrant to avenge the destruction of their village. Oh my, get her into the harem so that she's close enough to kill him. Oh my. With elegance and compassion, Couto's The Sword and the Spear illustrates the futility of war and the porous boundaries between apparently foreign cultures. Boundaries that entire societies, but also friends and lovers, perceive to be both intractable and in decline. Okay, this sounds fairly brainy. So it's historical fiction. I don't think I have the first book, A Woman of the Ashes, and I'm not sure that I've read it. And I'm not sure how much I'll need to. Ideally, it would be the author's job to make sure I don't need to, but I don't get the impression from this book that this author is much going to care. So maybe I should get on to the publicist and find out if maybe they have a copy they could send me of A Woman of the Ashes. But anyway, this is book 2. That sounded intriguing. It sounds like a world that I know nothing about, so that's always fun in a reading experience. So we have what sounds like historical fiction, The Sword and the Spear, and we have a Palm Beach scandal, very much not historical fiction, very much ripped from today's headlines. So fiction. the mail for this Labor Day was entirely fiction. Not totally against that. I have plenty of nonfiction to read. So there you go. That is your MegaStuff Monday. We have babies. We have a new Richardson abode. We have a tech update, perhaps an iPad Pro in my future. I'd love to hear from any of you if you have an iPad Pro, especially if you have the accoutrements. Do you have the 2018 Smart keyboard? And if so, what's it like for long-term typing? I'd love to hear about that. And also 2 books. So that's your MegaStuff Monday for today, and I will be back. In the meantime, have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.